Part 1. Why bother investing? It is important to know exactly why you are doing this in the first place. Without the proper savings, you could just find yourself in a dicey situation into late adulthood. And trust me, no one wants to be forced to clock into a shift at Walmart in their 80s. I grew up on food stamps and not knowing jack squat about finances. I was conditioned to live frugally out of fear, and growing up, I was fearful of adulthood and all the unknowns that come with it. I pictured myself growing old living off unemployment, alone in a one-bedroom apartment playing video games all day. However, over the years I began to educate myself, and I am now in my mid-20s with a 6-figure net worth and 0 debt. My girlfriend and I just got a new place together, and I am happier than I have ever been in my life. I want to share my story and things I picked up along the way, because I know how it feels to be broke, and I don't want that for anybody. I promise you that if you just educate yourself, make smart money decisions, and keep your chin up, you too can set yourself for success in retirement. Investing is not hard, and I'm going to break it down for you in layman's terms. Before you can invest, you need to make sure that you have an emergency fund and a high-yield savings account, and any high-interest debts paid off. If you don't know what either of those things mean, or you haven't completed those steps, please watch my last video, and come back to this one when you're done. Those first 2 steps are mandatory. It is the unskippable cutscene in the video game you need to watch before you can progress. Now, assuming you have an emergency fund and your debts are paid, you can begin contributing money into your retirement accounts. Part 2. Traditional versus Roth. What's the difference? You've probably heard of the terms traditional and Roth. You can choose to have a traditional version of a retirement account, or a Roth version, or some combination of the two. They affect how your contributions or withdrawals are taxed. Basically, all of your money is taxed by the government, regardless of what you do with it. There's no avoiding it. I live in Boston, and I frequently ask myself what my ancestors at the Boston Tea Party would say to us if they saw our tax rates today. Traditional means that your contributions are not taxed upon entry, but they are instead taxed upon withdrawal. Let's say you want to contribute $100 to a traditional retirement account. Your $100 goes into the account tax-free, where it can now grow. However, you'll be taxed for any funds that you withdraw in your retirement. If your $100 grows to $1,000 by retirement, you won't get to keep the full $1,000. You will owe taxes on the entire amount. You may only end up with, say, $800 instead. Roth just means that you pay taxes up front prior to when the contribution is made. Again, using this hypothetical $100 contribution, let's say you want to invest it in a Roth retirement account. Since the money is taxed going in, your contribution amount is now only $80. By the time you are ready to retire, this $80 now becomes $800. But since you already paid the taxes up front, upon withdrawing, you will not be subject to any additional taxes. You will end up with $800, same as before. All things considered, your ending balances for the traditional versus Roth are the same in this scenario. The amount you are taxed is affected by your tax bracket, which is all dependent on your annual income. To find your tax bracket, just Google federal tax brackets for the current year. Here is a look at this year's tax bracket list for 2025. You might be asking yourself, why would you want to choose one over the other? Well, that all depends on what tax bracket you are currently in and where you see yourself in the future. A good rule of thumb is to pay your taxes when your tax rate is low and to defer them when they are high. What that means for us is that 9 times out of 10, you will want to pick a Roth account over traditional, since your tax bracket is usually lower in the beginning of your career. As you get older and enter higher tax brackets, 24% and up, then you can consider opening a traditional account or rolling over your Roth balance. By picking Roth early, you are effectively locking in a low tax rate per dollar on your contributions. This does not mean that one is objectively better than the other. You just need to think of them in the context of your current and future tax bracket situations. Part 3. 401, IRA, brokerage. What's the deal? So, there are several options you can use for your retirement accounts, all with different characteristics. There are 3 main ones that I will be talking about, and you can have one of them, all of them, or some combination of them together.
What?
There is your 401k, traditional or Roth, your IRA, traditional or Roth, and taxable brokerage account. This is neither traditional nor Roth. It is taxed throughout. The first and most common type of account is a 401k. This is the one your parents told you to enroll in when you got your first job. A 401k is a retirement savings plan offered through your employer, where money is contributed directly from your paycheck, and only from your paycheck. You cannot make outside contributions from your bank account. I made the mistake of throwing the enrollment papers away in my first couple of jobs because I thought 401k was a scam. I was seriously that uneducated.
Why wasn't I told?
One of the biggest benefits of a 401k is that many employers offer a company match as an incentive to attract and retain employees. For example, let's say you get your first job and want to enroll in their 401k plan. Not all employers offer a Roth 401k, but for the purposes of this scenario, let's say they do. You open a Roth 401k with your employer and contribute $100 per paycheck to the account. If your employer has a match of 5%, that means they will match 5% of your salary or contribution every paycheck too. So, that becomes an extra $5 you get completely for free from your employer that goes directly into your account. That $100 contribution has now become $105. Remember though, since this is a Roth account, you'll still need to pay taxes on your contributions up front. For all intents and purposes, let's say your tax bracket is 10%, which means that your initial $100 contribution is now only $90. So, your total contribution from your paycheck after taxes is now $95. Since a 401k is the only option out of these three that offers an employer match, you will absolutely want to take advantage of it. It is literally free money. Employer matches usually require a minimum amount of contributions to actually get the match. So for example, they may offer 1% of your contributions up to 5% of your paycheck or salary. This means that if you contribute 5% of your paycheck, then they will match you 5%. But if you contribute more than 5%, say 10 or 15, they will still only be matching the 5%. So, it might make more sense for you to only contribute up to the match and invest your remaining income elsewhere, or you can just stick with the 401k and just up your contributions. It all depends on your preferences and the fund options offered through the 401k. The current 401k IRS contribution limit for 2025 is $23,500 if you are under the age of 50, meaning that if you contribute more than this over the course of the year, you will be subject to penalty during the next tax season. It is super important to never go over your contribution limit, and if you do, you will need to contact the IRS.
I tried to stop it. I couldn't stop it.
The second account is an IRA, which stands for Individual Retirement Account. This is separate from your 401k, though is very similar in function. An IRA has nothing to do with your employer, and you must open it yourself through brokerages like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, or Vanguard. Since your employer is not involved, there is no dollar match like you get in a 401k. This also means that you cannot contribute to an IRA directly from your paycheck. All of your contributions must come from your bank account. Why would you want an IRA? For starters, an IRA is always available in both Roth and traditional versions. And since your IRA is not tied to your employer, nor your 401k, it has separate contribution limits, meaning that you can max out your 401k and an IRA on the side. The current contribution limit for an IRA is $7,000 for the year 2025. It is an amazing place to park your extra savings so that it can grow long term. If your employer doesn't offer a 401k, which would be unusual but not unheard of, you can instead open an IRA account to act as your starting primary investment account. However, if your employer does offer a 401k, you'll want to take advantage of the company match, and then you can contribute any leftover savings from your paycheck into your IRA. Having your money in either your 401k or an IRA long term beats having it in a bank account, high yield or otherwise, by a long shot. Your next option is a standard taxable brokerage account, or TBA. This is an account where your money is taxed throughout, including when contributions are made, any gains your investments makes, dividends, interest, etc. The brokerages I mentioned earlier, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Vanguard, offer these TBA accounts, and so do platforms like Robinhood and Webull. These are great places to invest your extra savings if you happen to have a lump of cash you are looking to invest after your 401k and IRA contributions. However, there is a misconception that this is the only way to invest your money, popularized through clickbait YouTube videos and huge scandals like the GameStop and AMC event from a few years ago. I made $10,000 overnight from that and then watched it all go down to zero because Robinhood halted all the withdrawals. Do you guys remember that? That still keeps me up at night. Anyway, you want your primary focus to be on your 401k and your IRA. And even after both of those, you still have excess cash you want to invest, then you can consider a TBA. But it is by no means necessary. Part 4. What happens after you contribute? Now, this is what tripped me up when I was younger. I thought 401k and IRA were a scam because I didn't understand how they actually make money. I figured it was just my contributions that were adding up on top of each other and had zero clue about how the market worked or compound interest. To me, it was just like another savings account, so I did not see the value in it since I already had money going to my bank.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
Here's what I didn't know. Your contributions don't just sit there. They are invested into the financial market in one form or another, whether it be through stocks or bonds. Inside your retirement account, you can choose how much goes into each type: stocks, bonds, or other assets. For example, you can have 90% of your investments go into the stock market and the remaining 10% go towards bonds. Or you can do 80% stock market and 20% bonds. Your ratio of stock market, aka equities, to bonds all depends on your risk tolerance. The stock market is generally volatile but sees large returns over a long period of time, whereas bonds see a modest return regardless of how long you hold on to them for. That is just a super brief summary of those two different types of assets, but let me know if you want to make a video in the future discussing them further. Okay, so back to our previous example from before. You have contributed $100 to a Roth 401k through your employer, who offers a 5% match. After taxes are calculated, your balance is now $95. In your Roth 401k, let's say that you set your investment allocations to 90% stocks and 10% bonds. That means every time you contribute, $85.50 is automatically going into the stock market, that's the 90%, and $9.50 is going into bonds, that's the 10%. Let's assume that the overall rate of return on your investments is 7%, which is generally a safe, conservative estimate to use. If you keep contributing this $95 indefinitely and continue to invest in 90% stocks and 10% bonds, after 45 years, you will have a whopping $157,523. To put this into perspective, if you were like me and didn't want to open any 401k at all and just kept pocketing that $100, your savings would only grow by $54K. That's a difference of over $100,000. So, as you can see, investing compounds your dollars from snowflakes into snowballs. As you continue to contribute, your investments grow, and that cash snowball keeps getting bigger and bigger. Eventually, you will have an indomitable landslide of retirement savings just by contributing a few bucks here and there. Investing in your retirement is really as simple as contributing money into each account when you can, choosing the right fund allocations that fit your preferences, and letting the money grow over time. There are many different funds and strategies you can employ, which can vary depending on your age, income, retirement age, and more. Are you young, early in your career, and want to be aggressive with your investing? Or are you more risk averse and more comfortable with modest but guaranteed growth? It is important to ask yourselves these questions before you consider investing anything into the market. Thanks for watching. What videos do you want me to make in the future? What does your current retirement plan look like? I'd be interested to see what you guys have to say below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for future uploads if you enjoyed. Thanks again, and see you next time.